Hey, 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 it's Tia, baby. And I am back with another video. So I'm going to continue. Ooh, I'm hungry. If you heard my stomach growling. But I'm going to continue with I think this is chapter 8. And then I'm going to read the rest of chapter 9. Um, Let me make sure. Let me make sure I'm on the right chapter. So yes, I'm going to finish reading chapter 8 and then I'm going to read the whole chapter 9. So this is part 3. So let's go. Or so I thought. I have no idea what Dictator told Selena about this incident to save face, but it must have been some version that made me into the bad guy because she was angry at me for days. You need to apologize for what you did to him, she lectured. He's the one who needed to apologize, and he did. I argued. You disrespected him, Chris, and he's my father, she said. I can't let you do that. I refused, but Selena gave me the cold shoulder from the moment on, and her will was unusually stronger than anybody's. By the third day, I was sick of the whole stupid argument. I realized that it wouldn't cost me that much to apologize, and it would make Selena happy. So I went up to Abraham and said, let me rephrase that. So I went up to Dictator and said, I'm sorry for the other night. I shouldn't have gone there. Nothing like that should have happened between us. I deliberately left the apology vague because although I was definitely sorry that things had gotten to that point between us, I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. Dictator got his maddening a little smirk on his face, as if he thought he won somehow. Then he opened his arms and gave me one of his famous hugs. Another time, an argument started up between Selena and her dad in the kitchen while I was in the living room. He had just stopped by unannounced, the way he loved to do, and the three of us had been hanging out. It was a relaxing evening. Then Dictator must have started in on Selena about something or somebody in our lives, the way he often did. Things started quietly as a discussion. I could hear them talking in the kitchen because the apartment was such an open space, but rapidly escalated into another full-blown argument. If Selena made up her mind about something, it was very hard to get her to change it. And once Dictator didn't like something, he would do everything in his power to try to force people to do things his way. So interactions between them could get pretty intense. Often it really scared me when they started arguing. You can't always tell me what to do, Selena cried, and that's when I decided that I needed to intervene. I went into the kitchen and saw that Selena had lost it. She was trying to talk, but she was crying so hard that she couldn't take a breath. What's going on here? I asked, looking from Selena to her father. Dictator turned and looked at me. What are you doing? What are you doing to her? He shouted. What are you talking about? This is all you right here, I said. Selena sank down to the floor and folded into herself, still sobbing. I went over to her and held her, putting her head on my chest and rocking her as if she was a small child, as Dictator left and shut the door behind him. Dictator and I continued to have these uncomfortable power struggles. Most of the tension between us was the result of incidents where I had to run interference and support Selena when she and her father were butting heads. Luckily, despite this fact that Dictator had tried in every way conceivable to keep us apart, once we were married, Dictator was old school enough to honor me as Selena's husband. I think that he genuinely respected me too because I genuinely spoke my mind but was polite while doing it. I kept thinking that as time went on, Dictator would learn to pick his battles. but that wasn't really in his nature. It wasn't in Selena's either. Once, for instance, the three of us, Dictator, Selena, and myself, went to the Hard Rock Cafe grand opening in San Antonio. Selena was having a great time. She even went up and sang a song with the band Cheap Trip. What kind of band name is that? After a while, though, Dictator was tired and wanted to leave. I'm ready to go now, he announced to Selena. Enough fun is getting late. I don't want to leave yet, she said, and went off to find me. My dad keeps telling me he wants to leave. Are you okay with it if we stay a little longer? Yeah, I'm cool, I said. Good, Selena said, and went back to the stage. Within minutes, Dictator had sought me out in the crowd and was standing in front of me, shaking his finger in the way he had. You need to tell Selena that it's time to go, he said. Of course, Dictator had always been the absolute authority in his family, so he believed that I must hold the same status in mind. He still didn't understand the nature of my marriage with Selena. So I want to pause. I respect Selena because normally, like Chris said, her father is the authority, was normally the authority in the family, and everybody listened to him. But now that she was married and she took her marriage really seriously, she went to her husband for approval if it was okay for her to stay, and she took his word as law, which she is supposed to. Traditionally, the husband is now the authority in the wife's life, and or had the final say in certain aspects. And it was very, I respect her for doing that. And I mean, of course, Dictator was not happy with that, but traditionally, once you are married, the husband is word is law, and the father's word is not. So but it's not. It doesn't mean that the father's word is dismissed. It's just not law. It's not the first. Um, it's not the first demand or command or whatever. So it was great that she went to her husband because she respected her husband and her marriage enough to go to him once her father was like, we need to leave. So I respect her on that. Back to the story. I'm sorry, Dictator, I said. She doesn't want to go yet. We're going to stay. He just shook his head in disgust and stalked off. Another time we were all eating in a restaurant after a show when a fan approached the table. I was sitting at one end with Selena. Most of the band members were present with their girlfriends or wives. Dictator was seated at the far end of the table. The fan suddenly tossed a piece of paper between Selena and me. Sign this, the woman demanded. Rude. Selena spun around. I'm sorry, can you please wait until we're done eating? She said. Then I'll be happy to sign it. She turned her back on the woman, and the fan left us, fuming under her breath. This angered Dictator. Why did you have to be so rude to that woman? First of all, Dictator, the fan was rude to her. First of all, she did not speak. Secondly, you don't toss anything to anybody and say, sign this. Are you serious? Who is she? But, back to the story. And Selena handled it very maturely and very well. He demanded. She was rude first, Selena said, equally infuriated. How is it that somebody can just come up while I'm eating and toss something at me and you think that's perfectly okay? The argument continued to rage between them all through dinner and even after we were back on the bus. Finally, I had no choice but to intervene. Look, man, I told Dictator. Selena has every right to have a little peace and quiet to eat her dinner, just like the rest of us. There have to be some boundaries or she's going to burn out. Dictator backed down, then in a way he never would have done if it had been Selena telling him the same thing. Despite these family quarrels, Selena and I were happier than we had ever been. I would come home from running errands and often find Selena cleaning or cooking. She loved playing her new role as wife. She was good at it too. She even learned how to make a recipe for black tip shark that immediately became my favorite meal ever. I still don't know what ingredients she used to marinate that shark, but it was better than anything I've ever tasted. When we weren't on the road, Selena and I revealed in each other and in our new life. On some weekends, we went to San Antonio to visit my family and friends. Selena fit in right away with with my parents, my grandparents, my aunts and uncles. She might have been a little more outgoing with my family than with her own. Nobody saw her as a superstar because she wasn't, not yet. Selena also had this thing about her that made people feel comfortable. No matter how famous she got, that was true from the first day I met her, and it was true until the day she died. My family saw Selena as a normal, happily married young woman who loved to hang out in the backyard for a barbecue, toss the football, or lounge in the tire swing hanging from a tree. Then she get all dressed up and we go to a club where she get on stage and have all of these people tripping out on that same person. It never failed to amaze me how Selena could toss between those two worlds without missing a beat. Selena really knew how to have a good time too. I remember showing up at my cousin Kenny's house in San Antonio's one time and walking in with Selena just as my cousins were mixing drinks that looked like a creamy orange juice. "What is that stuff?" I asked. "Oh, you don't know what any of this is? This is for my big boys only," Kenny said, waving his glass high in the air. "What's it called?" Selena asked. "A salty dog," Kenny's wife said. Selena and I looked at each other and burst out laughing. "Let me try," I said. "I want to try it too," Selena insisted. After a couple of salty dogs, Selena was the life of the party, sitting on the edge of Kenny's sofa and telling jokes with a bucket on top of her head. I don't know what she was doing, but she was being a goofball and making everybody laugh. Because Selena was a Jehovah's Witness, she had never celebrated Christmas. Truthfully, I seldom did, either because the band usually played on holidays. The first year we were married, however, the band was free on Christmas, and I took Selena home to my mother's house for the holiday. My family had all bought Selena Christmas gifts, even though I told them that she didn't observe the holiday. Out of respect for Selena, they piled the gifts in my mom's room instead of putting it under the Christmas tree. When I took Selena in there, she was floored. My family does it up big on Christmas. The bed was covered with brightly wrapped presents, all for her. Selena had never been part of a family Christmas celebration before, and she loved it. Her religion was a serious subject to her, and private one too. One of the few subjects Selena never felt comfortable talking about to the media. That day she went wild though, just ripped into those presents, enjoying herself like an excited little kid on Christmas. It was a joy for me to watch her. Whenever Selena and I weren't visiting friends and family, we loved staying home to cook, putter, and watch TV. We fully enjoy experiencing what we never had before, an open, loving relationship that we could share with the world, even holding hands on the street if we felt like it. Our love felt fresh again because we no longer had to tiptoe around, hide how we felt about each other. It seemed that despite Dictator flinging every possible obstacle in our path, we might be able to live happily ever after, even without Selena's fairy tale wedding. Chapter 9. A house of our own, sort of, and our practice family. That winter was so cold in Lake Jackson that my baby pigs died, Selena said. My mom brought them back to life. I laughed. You're not serious. Selena was telling me this story as we walked around a mall in San Antonio. We were headed for the favorite store, the pet store, and she was telling me about having a pet chicken, pet piglets as a little kid. I loved her stories because I never had a pet as a child. She did, really, Selena said. The pigs were dead and I was crying, so my mom decided to bring the pigs back into the kitchen. We turned the oven on low and laid the piglets out on the oven door. That couldn't possibly work, I said, taking delight in my wife's brown eyes, which were dancing at the memory of her mother's heroics. Selena grew seldom of the sudden. Those piglets warmed right up and walked again. She promised and then started giggling. Selena was an animal lover, and so was I. Maybe that's why, as soon as we had a house of our own, we started our practice family. Or maybe it was just because Selena loved to buy things on impulse. The house had been subject of many late night debates between us. Around the time Selena's lease on her apartment was due to be renewed, Dictator announced that he was making an offer on a house in his neighborhood, a house on Bloomington Street with a yard that connected to his own. ABCDFG already lived next door to Dictator on the other side. If we move in, the entire Quintanilla family would live in three adjoining houses. No way am I going to live next to my father, Selena announced. I had some doubts about living that close to Dictator too, given his strong will and his temper. At the same time, I respected the man as both a manager and Selena's father, and I didn't usually feel like he could railroad me. We had developed a mutual respect, and occasionally Dictator called me his son. By now, I had a better understanding of the Quintanilla family's dynamics. I knew how vitally important family was to them. Selena and her family members could really make each other angry to the ninth degree. But eventually their disagreements usually brew over and things would be fine. They had worked hard to build their lives together. I didn't want to come in and say, okay, we're married, now we're going to get as far away as we can. That wasn't my style. I wasn't afraid of getting lost or railroad if we lived next to Dictator. I had a strong sense of self even at that age. Plus, there was a certain logic to us all living nearby. Since we spent so many hours working together on music, not only that, a Dictator was genuinely going to buy the house himself and let Selena and me live in it rent free. If we do this, we could save up for a house, I pointed out to her. We can see your family all the time on the road anyway. What's the difference? The difference is that they'd be right next door, Selena argued. If we have friends come over or any kind of get together, you know my dad is going to want to be there. Well, we probably invite him anyway. I said we usually do. Look, I'm cool with the idea, you know, but I'm fine with being around your family. You decide. Either way is fine with me. We can always live in San Antonio if you want more distance. My family and friends were all in San Antonio, but Selena's were all in Corpus. In the end, she decided that it made sense to accept her father's offer. That way we can take our time and maybe even build a house we really like, she said. So, within 3 months of being married, Selena and I had our own house. After painting it, tearing up the carpets, and putting in new floors, Selena and I went to the furniture store in Corpus to buy a few things. That's when she spotted a headboard that was almost a huge aquarium, and declared that she had to have it. It was plexiglass, 18 inches high with a black border all around it. It's completely Art Deco, Selena said. It'll be perfect with our black carpet and black sofa. So let me pause here. So a lot of people thought that the picture that Suzette had of with the purple and the swan bed and all of that was the bedroom that Selena and Chris shared at the house. I believe that was the bedroom set that Selena had in her apartment. But clearly, that was not the bedroom set that Selena and Chris shared at the house, because it clearly states that they had a black interior bedroom decor in their house that they lived next door to her father. But I believe that purple bedroom set was her bedroom set that she had at the apartment. So let me get back to the story. So yeah, it was purple with our black carpet and black sofa. I was doubtful. It doesn't even have a filter, I said. I have to build a filtration system into it. And if you want a saltwater aquarium, well, that's a lot of maintenance. Come on, please, Selena said. It would look really cool in our bedroom. I couldn't ever say no to her. Even Selena turned her big brown eyes on me and made that sad puppy face. I started buying books on saltwater aquariums and figuring out how to build the filtration system. It was a lot of work, but eventually I managed to slit the aquarium in a way that allowed me to insert a PVC pipe into it and mount it to the pump. For a while, we had a beautiful aquarium with no fish in it at all because I had to keep adjusting the filter and making sure the water stayed clear and had the right levels of salt. Meanwhile, Selena was pouring through books on saltwater fish, exclaiming over their colors and shapes. They weren't cheap fish, and I knew that keeping them healthy would be a big job. But we were but we were both really excited when the day finally came that we could add fish. And the aquarium was, as Selena had predicted, the perfect addition to our bedroom, a moving work of art. So I'm not gonna read the whole entire chapter because it's a lot of pages and I'm almost at 30 minutes and that's my limit. So I'm gonna read a couple of more pages and then I'm gonna stop. And then I'll continue with the rest of chapter 9 and half of chapter 10 tomorrow. But why stop there with Selena? More was often better. One day I came back home and she said, "Look what I bought." It was another aquarium. This was an octagonal and taller than I was. It had a black base about a foot tall, and another black piece with a clock set into it. Luckily, this aquarium came with all of the necessities, filtration equipment, but I still had to put it all together. It was worth it, though, because Selena loved those fish so much. Now, as we walked to the pet store, Selena spotted a pen full of puppies outside the door. Immediately, she ran over it and put her fingers in it, letting the dogs lick her and nip at her fingers. She was nearly bouncing up and down with delight, making me smile as I watched. They were cute puppies to be sure, fuzzy and lively little Pomeranians, tumbling over each other in their nests of newspaper shavings. Most were tan and white. They were sweet looking, but Selena was captivated by the only black puppy in the litter. "Look at this one," she squealed. "Doesn't she look just like a little bear? I really want her." Now, I believe that if Selena was still living, I think she would buy her pets from a shelter. I think back then in the 90s, pet stores were more popular than buying a pet at a shelter. So it was with the times. But I believe, now people are buying pets from shelters because, it's just more um environmentally appropriate. So I think if she was to be living now, I think she would have bought a pet or pets from shelters because she's about helping people and helping animals, and I think that she would have been more prone to buying a pet from the shelter if she would still been living today. Back to the story. What would we do with a dog while we were on the road? Still, I could have never denied Selena anything. "Let's check her out," I suggested. There was a room in the back where could sit and play with the dogs that were considered buying. A store clerk led us back there and talked to us about the pros and cons of Pomeranians as pets and the particular about this puppy, birth date, and vaccinations. She might as well have been singing opera. Neither of us was listening. Selena was down on the floor rolling around with the dog, and I knew the deal was done. We acted like parents with a newborn, buying every possible accessory for that puppy. We named her Pebbles and took her on the road with us until she was old enough to stay home with our housekeeper whenever we were gone. Pebbles became queen of our house. She also started our dog collection. A few months after getting her, my friend Jess came to Corpus to visit. He and I went shopping at another mall and happened to walk past a pet store. I glanced in the window and spotted 4 Siberian Husky puppies. One of them had incredible markings on his face, including a black cross straight up and down his nose and across his eyes. "That's a cool looking dog," I said, reaching down to pet him. "Why don't you get him?" Jesse asked. "I'll think about it," I said, but I wasn't serious. When I got home later, I started showing Selena the clothes I bought at the mall. "Did you see anything else you like there?" she asked. "Hey, tell her about that dog," Jesse said. "Oh yeah, we saw a cute husky puppy. Really cool looking," I told her and described the dog's markings. Right away, Selena said, let's go see him. "Can we go back there and see him?" I laughed because she was so excited. "And another dog? Pebbles will kill us." "Come on," she pleaded. "I really want to see that puppy. Let's go back there and check him out." Oh man, here we go, I thought. But I drove us back to the pet store anyway. I gave Selena a little speech on the way. "We're just going to look at the puppies," I reminded her. "We're already got Pebbles. Now don't freak out and all of a sudden want to buy them. Don't get carried away." "Okay," she said, "I promise." Soon as we got to the pet store though, Selena went crazy. "Which one is he?" "It's him right there." She ran over to the cage and picked him up, the puppy with a black mark on his face, holding him close. "Oh my gosh, I love him. Let's bring him home, can we?" "Are you sure?" I asked. "You all are going to get him for real?" Jesse asked. Amazed by Selena's excitement, he was laughing too because he started this whole thing. "Of course we are," Selena said, and off we went. And with our new dog, we named him Jax for my Jackson guitar. So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to continue this reading tomorrow. So until then, check out this video. Peace.